Principles Show daily podcast by and for you.
All right, let's dive in. We're tackling the BRICS Working Group today,
Okay.
their recent meeting in Rio,
Right.
all about competition in digital markets. Super timely, obviously.
Oh, yeah, for sure. With AI advancing so fast.
Keeping things fair, right? That's what it's all about.
Exactly. A level playing field. And what's really interesting is how much this group's influence is growing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just the original BRICS nations anymore.
Rare.
We're talking Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, of course.
Of course.
But now they've got new members at the table.
Yeah, I saw that.
Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the UAE.
Even Mexico was there.
Even Mexico joined in.
Mexico, really? Huh.
Yeah, they were part of the discussion.
Wow, okay. But you know what really stood out to me?
What's that?
Russia and Brazil co-chairing this whole thing.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, Brazil front and center in the digital world.
Oh, well, they have been pretty involved.
Have they?
For a while, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Shaping digital markets, working on competition law.
Oh, okay.
So partnering up with Russia makes sense.
Especially since Russia had the BRICS chair this year.
Exactly. 2024 was their year.
Right. It rotates.
It keeps things balanced.
Okay, so back to this meeting.
Yeah, what about it?
They were focused on adapting current antitrust laws.
To the digital age.
Yeah. That's got to be tough, right? Keeping up with tech.
Oh, it's a constant struggle, believe me.
I bet. So much is changing so fast.
Well, think about it. Those old laws.
Yeah.
They were made before the internet was even a thing.
Sure.
Back then, market dominance was way easier to figure out.
Simpler times, huh?
Right. But now, algorithms are setting prices.
Oh, right.
Platforms are hoarding all this data.
The whole new ball game.
Totally throws a wrench into those traditional approaches.
I can see that. So what are some of the specific challenges then? What does adapting those laws actually look like?
Well, one big one is this whole algorithmic pricing thing.
Okay.
Imagine you're online shopping.
Uh-huh.
An algorithm is deciding what price you see.
Really? Based on what?
All sorts of things. Your browsing history,
Oh, wow.
your location, what device you're using.
No way.
It can totally mess up markets.
How so?
Companies can manipulate prices in ways those old laws just weren't designed to handle.
That's crazy.
It gets murky fast.
So are they figuring this out? Is there any consensus yet on how to deal with this stuff?
They're actually beyond just brainstorming, thankfully.
Oh,
They've got some frameworks in place.
really?
Back in July 2024, they approved all these reports and principles,
That's great.
specifically for regulating digital markets.
So they're taking action.
Big time. And one key idea they're pushing is this thing called data portability.
Data portability, I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
It's all about giving users more control over their own data.
Okay.
The idea is you can easily move your data from one platform to another.
Okay.
That way, no single platform has too much power.
I see. So it encourages competition.
Exactly. So if you don't like what one social media site is doing, you can just take your data and go somewhere else.
Yeah, and keep all my stuff.
Yeah, all your connections, your content.
Sounds good in theory.
Right.
But is that even possible? Moving all that data around?
Well, it's complicated, no doubt.
Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges is figuring out how to standardize data formats
Standardize.
so that information can move between different systems smoothly.
And that's where this whole digital standards thing comes in.
Digital standard.
Sure.
Okay. To be honest, I'm a little fuzzy on what that means. Can you break that down for me?
You're not alone. It can be a bit confusing. Digital standards are basically a set of rules.
Okay.
They determine how different technologies interact.
Like with each other.
Yeah, exactly. Think about USB ports.
Okay.
Having a standardized port means any device with a USB connector
Yeah.
can plug into any computer with a USB port.
Right. It all just works.
Exactly. Simple idea, but it shows how interoperability can work.
So are you saying they want to create like a digital USB port for user data? That's a great way to think about it. It's not quite that straightforward, of course.
Of course.
Data is way more complex than a physical connector, you know.
Yeah.
But the idea is similar.
Okay.
If you have clear, consistent standards for how data is structured and how it's transferred, it becomes way easier to move it around.
I see.
Breaks down those walled gardens that some platforms build.
Right. Makes sense.
And it helps smaller companies compete too.
How so?
They might not have the resources to comply with a bunch of different data formats.
Right. That makes sense. This is fascinating stuff. I knew these markets were complex.
Oh, they're a beast.
But wow, so many layers.
Tons.
Algorithmic pricing, data portability, digital standards. anything else on their agenda.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're also focusing on online marketplaces.
Oh, right. Those are huge.
Yeah.
Buyers and sellers everywhere. Right.
All over the world.
Not always a lot of transparency either.
Nope.
How do you even start regulating something that big and messy?
It's a massive task, no question. But the BRICS, they're saying these marketplaces, they're not in some regulatory void.
True.
They're looking at how platforms rank products and sellers.
Interesting.
How they deal with disputes.
Okay.
How they protect user data.
Sounds like they're trying to find a balance.
Yeah, they are.
Promote innovation, let these markets grow.
Right.
But also, keep things fair.
Safeguards are important.
Yeah, make sure no one's manipulating the system.
Exactly. Protect consumers and make sure smaller businesses have a chance.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot here.
A lot.
Adapting antitrust laws, data portability, digital standards, regulating online marketplaces. It's a lot. And it seems incredibly important.
It is.
But what I'm wondering is, what does this actually mean for the average person? Why should we care about all of this?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
And it gets to the heart of why this work matters so much.
Okay.
All of these efforts,
Yeah.
they're all about creating a more competitive, more equitable digital economy.
Okay, but what does that look like in real life? Like, how does that translate into actual benefits for people like me and you?
Well, for one thing, more competition usually leads to lower prices.
Okay, I like that.
When companies have to compete for your business, they're more likely to offer good deals.
Yeah, makes sense.
Keeps prices in check.
All right, lower prices, everyone's happy about that. But what else?
It also means more choice and innovation.
Really?
When you have multiple players in the market,
Yeah.
they all have to innovate.
To stand out.
Exactly. They need to differentiate themselves to get customers.
Interesting.
So you get a wider variety of products and services.
More options.
And you're more likely to find something that fits your needs perfectly.
So more competition, lower prices, more choices. It's becoming clear why this matters, but I have a feeling this is just the beginning, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's a whole lot more to unpack here.
I bet. And that's exactly what we'll be doing as we continue our deep dive.
It's interesting to think about how these digital market regulations are playing out globally.
Yeah.
It's not just the BRICS. Everyone's trying to figure this out.
It does feel that way. Like everyone's playing catch up a bit.
Yeah.
But gotta hand it to the BRICS. They're being pretty proactive.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Not waiting for problems. They're trying to anticipate what's coming.
Absolutely.
Like those reports from July 2024.
Right. They're model principles.
They're really pushing for international cooperation, sharing what they're learning.
It's key. They know it's not just about them.
So they're not just coming up with solutions on their own. They're actually trying to get other countries on board.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. But wouldn't it be easier to just focus on their own markets? I mean, working with other countries, that's got to be a headache.
It's definitely not easy.
I bet.
Lots of challenges.
Yeah.
But their argument is a fragmented approach.
Yeah.
It just won't be effective.
I see what you mean. So, like, if every country has its own rules, creates a lot of friction for businesses.
Exactly.
Especially for companies that operate in multiple countries.
Right. It's a mess. And think about data privacy, cybersecurity.
Oh, right.
Those issues need global cooperation.
So they're saying a more unified approach is better for everyone in the long run. Okay, I get that. But isn't there a chance some countries might feel like they're being forced into regulations that don't really fit them?
There's always that risk. Yeah, whenever you're talking about international agreements.
Yeah.
But the BRICS, they're not trying to impose a one-size-fits-all solution.
Oh, okay. So what are they doing then?
Their focus is more on establishing guiding principles, best practices.
So each country can adapt them to their own situation.
Exactly. It's more of a framework than a rigid set of rules.
I'm starting to see why these discussions are so crucial. It's about how we govern the digital world, right? Huge questions, but also so complex, so many different aspects.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's why they're taking such a broad approach.
Right. It's not just about one thing.
It's everything. Antitrust, data privacy. They're trying to create a framework that addresses all of it, how it all connects.
You mentioned earlier they're also looking at online marketplaces.
Yeah, those are a big focus.
Can you tell me a little more about that? Like, what specifically are they looking at with these platforms?
Well, one key thing is platform neutrality.
Platform neutrality? What's that?
Basically, the idea is that these marketplaces, they need to treat all sellers and buyers fairly,
Makes sense.
regardless of their size, who they're affiliated with.
Okay.
So they're looking at things like how these platforms rank products in search results,
Oh, interesting.
how they handle disputes between buyers and sellers,
Right.
and how they make sure data isn't used to give some players an unfair advantage.
Yeah, I can see how that could be a problem. If a marketplace is favoring its own products over others,
Exactly.
or even just prioritizing sellers who pay more,
It can totally distort the market.
makes it impossible for smaller businesses to compete.
Right. And the BRICS are trying to come up with ways to make sure these platforms are operating fairly.
So they want to regulate these platforms enough to prevent abuses,
Uh-huh.
keep competition fair,
Yep.
but they don't want to stifle innovation or overregulate things.
It's a tough balance.
Definitely a tightrope walk.
No easy answers.
But at least they're having these conversations openly,
Exactly.
getting different perspectives, trying to find solutions that work for everyone. This is really insightful. It feels like we're just starting to understand how complex this whole digital landscape is.
Oh, we're just scratching the surface.
But it's clear these efforts to shape the digital world are going to have a big impact on all of us.
No doubt about it. And it's a conversation we all need to be part of.
Right. This isn't just about governments and corporations.
It's about everyone. We're all consumers, citizens, participants in this digital world.
We all have a role to play in shaping its future. As we wrap up this deep dive, it's amazing how much we've unpacked.
I know, right?
From antitrust laws to data portability to regulating these giant online marketplaces.
Yeah.
The BRICS Working Group, they're really tackling the tough questions
They are, no doubt.
about the future of the digital economy.
And not just talk either.
Right.
These are real challenges.
With real consequences.
Exactly. The decisions being made now, they'll affect us for years to come.
Absolutely. And they're not just thinking about themselves, the BRIC nations.
What do you mean?
They want to be leaders on the global stage.
Oh, I see. Setting an example.
Yeah, showing other countries how to approach these issues. They're even talking about new international agreements,
Wow.
new institutions to deal with governance, cybersecurity, all that.
Ambitious.
They're saying the current systems just aren't enough.
I can see that.
Not for the digital age. They need something more.
Makes you wonder, though, will other countries go for it?
Yeah, good question.
Will they see the BRICS as partners? Or will they resist?
I guess we'll see.
Some might be happy to have their leadership,
Yeah, their expertise,
but others might feel threatened.
especially those who've always been in charge.
Right, those who set the rules.
It'll be interesting to watch how it all unfolds.
Definitely.
But one thing's for sure.
What's that?
The conversation about governing the digital world, it's just starting.
And it's a conversation we all need to be a part of.
Absolutely. I think the key question is,
Yeah.
what kind of digital future do we want?
That's a big one.
Do we want a few giant corporations calling all the shots?
Controlling everything.
Or do we want open markets, fair competition,
A level playing field.
a digital world that works for everyone?
That's the goal, right?
It is. It's not an easy question to answer,
Definitely not.
but it's one we need to think about carefully.
Because the choices we make now,
They'll determine the kind of digital world we live in tomorrow.
that's a powerful thought.
So, to everyone listening, as we end this deep dive,
Yeah.
think about that question.
Okay.
How do you see the future of the digital economy?
What role do you want to play?
It's been an incredible journey exploring all of this with you.
It really has. Thanks for having me.
And I hope this deep dive has given you all something to think about, maybe even inspired you to take action.
I hope so too.